Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the bedroom studio. I am your man in Japan, Jay Contra, and I'm here to talk to you about the exciting world of Japanese shipping. Yes, I received a question not too long ago about shipping video games from Japan to wherever you might be. And this is something that I've wanted to talk about for a long time. I'll actually have, after this video, I can't remember how I've scheduled it, but when I was back in America, I had actually shipped myself a lot of things since I figured I was moving to Tokyo. I was going to have to downsize on a lot of the games that I had. So I ended up shipping about 8 boxes from Japan to my parents' house in the United States. So I now have actually a lot of experience with shipping things back home. And so what I'm going to break this down is basically how do you get games from Japan back to wherever. Now, my personal experience is only with sending games from Japan to the United States. Your situation is going to be different depending on where you're from, where you're wanting to ship these games to, but I think in general the principles remain the same. So what the basic principle of this video is going to be is you need to think about how valuable your time in Japan is. Because when you think about it, what's going to happen is if you buy so many games, it is so easy to do. If you're only coming to Japan for even a week or 2 weeks and you can't frequently come to Japan, this is your one chance where you're going to be going to hard offs, you're going to be going to Akihabara, you'll be seeing all of these cheap games and consoles, and you're going to want to buy as much as you can because it's going to be so much cheaper than if you bought it on eBay. But the problem is that you only have so much baggage space. So we're going to start off with taking things back with you on the airplane. If you've not been to Japan before, if you've not flown over here, this is kind of what you're going to expect. If you're flying from a different continent, say Europe, Africa, I was going to say the United States, as if that is all of the Americas and there's nowhere else. But basically anywhere that's not Asia, you're usually, depending on like the carrier alliance or whatever, you're going to get one sort of like personal item you can bring in the cabin. That'll be like a backpack. You'll also get a carry-on bag that's your standard, like sort of medium-sized, sort of 2-wheel or 4-wheel suitcase. That's what you can take with you on the plane. Then, usually, at least in my experience, I've flown ANA and United from the United States to Japan, and I have been able to check 2 very large suitcases. And I think the weight limit on that is 23 kilograms per bag, which ends up being 50 pounds per bag. And that's actually a lot of space. You could fit in, I think, let me think about what I sent last time. I think that was at least, I could fit at least a couple of box consoles. I remember fitting a regular PS4 in there, a box that had like a loose Neo Geo CD, Z, and another console in it. And that was about half of one bag. So you can fit a lot of stuff in your suitcases if you're flying back and forth from Japan. But what happens if you maybe bought too many things? Maybe if you've bought too many consoles? Because you can actually save a lot of money buying a Japanese console here versus buying it on eBay. If you want to have direct access, or as direct as possible access to your items, and you don't want to risk shipping it, you can actually check an extra bag. Now, I believe for ANA is the only one that I've priced personally. I haven't done this, but I've priced it. A large suitcase to check in up to, I want to say, like 23 kilograms. It might even be 30 for the extra option. It's going to cost you, I think, $200, or well, it's like 20,000 yen, which I think today is like, I don't know, $190. But remember, the thing about this is I have been able to, at least myself, handle 2 large suitcases traveling. Because remember, you're going to probably be taking the train or even a bus to go back and forth from the airport to your hotel. Do you want to be lugging around a 3rd suitcase that you've already got, your 2 hands are already occupied with the other 2 large suitcases that you've brought? How are you going to handle that 3rd or maybe even 4th? Now, if you've got the money and you can like hire a service that will take care of these bags, you can actually ship bags from your hotel to the airport through some of the expedited shipping services here in the country. But again, it's going to cost more money and it's going to take your time setting these things up. Although sometimes the hotels will do it for you. So it just, depends on your level of service. But still, it's going to cost you that much extra money to where maybe it would be worth just buying that stuff off of eBay when you get back. Because you see it here, it might just not be worth it. So then we move from things you will be able to do yourself to your shipping options. Now, there are generally two different shipping options when you're here in Japan. The first that I want to talk about is your expedited services. This would be your Kuroneko Yamato. There's sort of like they have the green and the yellow branding, and Sagawa, which is like blue, white, and gray. I only have experience using these services domestically, but I can tell you that the service is going to be top notch. You can be rest assured that your things will get back to you in time and for a reasonable price, and the options are really quite variable. So, well, no, actually, no. That's the thing. That's what separates it. You basically only have one option with these guys, and that is you basically take a box, you fill it up with, I think, up to. I'll just talk about Kuroneko Yamato because that's the one I have personal experience with in Japan. They have a lot of different sizes. The biggest box is, I want to say, it's basically anything that measures up to 160 centimeters. So it could be 10 centimeters length, or it's like the height, the width, and the height, length, and width, if that makes any sense. So the total dimensions of the box need to come to 160 centimeters. I think you could probably fill it up to about 30 kilograms. So I don't think any video game thing is going to be that heavy. And they'll ship it to the United States for, what did I price it? It was like $260 or so, or it might have been 160. I'll need to check my numbers on that. But it's anywhere from like $150 to $250 for that size of box. Now you can also ship smaller boxes, and that will get to you at least to the United States and probably also to Europe. The furthest places, Africa as well, I suppose, for I think in like 6 days. Like you can basically expect your stuff back to you within a week. So, you go back to America, you get home, and a couple of days later, your package from Japan arrives. Those are going to be your fast options. Those services are actually really useful also because if you need boxes, you can, I think in English, I want to say they have an English sales website, but it might only be in Japanese. So be careful with that. Language barrier is going to be a big problem when you're shipping this, but I'll get to that in the next section. But when you're shipping things through Kuroneko Yamato, you can have boxes delivered to you at your hotel, wherever you're staying. You can put all that stuff together. You will also probably have to buy packing material. That's the other thing I want to talk about when we're talking about the time value of shipping something back to where you're going. It's going to take you a lot of time just in the packing itself. Packing stuff is going to be a problem. You're going to have a problem weighing things to make sure you're within the limits. But just, going to Daiso, going to a 100 yen shop and buying the packing material is going to be taking up valuable time that you could be spending enjoying Japan, which is, I think, if this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, you shouldn't be spending that time packing video games. You should be doing it going to a temple, going to cool restaurants, just enjoying the life here in Japan and not shipping home video games that you don't need. So keep that in mind. And that brings us to the next option. When you move past the expedited shippers who are going to be very expensive, very reliable, and very fast. That's what you need to keep in mind. Those are the points that you should know when you're talking about those services. And then we go to Japan Post, where, if you're in a big city, you're always going to be within a short walking distance from a post office. And also Japan Post is probably, if not one of the most reliable postal services in the world. So you know that when you ship something, you're going to get it. But the timing can be quite variable. So there are a lot of different services that Japan Post offers, and I have experience with, I think, most of them. So that's what we'll talk about. We'll go with the most expensive first. That'll be EMS. That is, I think, like the international standard for expedited shipping. That means your item will get to you, I think, within 2 to 3 business days. It's really quick. It might be 4 to 5. I can't remember the exact days, but shorter than a week, should be. But it's also going to be very expensive. I want to say, I don't remember the prices. I have only ever shipped sort of medium-sized boxes, for like birthdays and stuff back to my family in the States. And so a medium-sized box of about, I can't remember, like 2 or 3 kilograms ended up being like $50 to ship it back. Now, you could also do regular air mail. I've done that for small packages, but that's even like a small package that I think is like 300 kilograms, or maybe even less than a kilogram. That can run you like $30 for air mail, excuse me. That's your next option. Your slowest option is going to be it's surface and land, or it's basically surface. What is it? In Japanese, it's called funabin, which means sea mail. What happens is you go to the post office, you give them their box. I shipped I want to say 8 kilogram large boxes full of you could probably fit like 2 or 3 boxed consoles in one of these boxes. And also I should note that different to Kuroneko, if you go to one of their delivery centers, sometimes they will have boxes that you're able to buy. Japan Post will almost, if not always, almost always have packing material. And I don't know if they'd have nice, rubber or foam things that you can put inside the box, but they will always have boxes that you can pick up, and they'll usually provide tape, I think, to close up your boxes. So don't worry about finding this packing material. You can also just go to Daiso and pick it up. But when you're at the Japan Post and you're doing the sea mail, you give them your box, you pay the money, and it basically gets shipped to the nearest port. It gets put on a boat, and then you have to wait until the boat fills up before the boat will actually go. And then I think I wanted to say I shipped some things in October, at the end of September. And it ended up getting to my parents' house at the beginning of November. This is going to be your cheapest option for shipping, especially heavy items, but it's also going to mean that it takes a long time. So if you don't mind waiting for your precious video games for a while, then yeah, send it sea mail and it'll get over no problem. The box on the outside will look very roughed up, but as long as you've done a good job, you've properly taped the outside, you've put in some packing material, your things will get to you no problem. It's just going to take some time. And time is what I want to end this video on, because again, you need to weigh, is it worth going to a post office where, especially if you're not in a city center, the reliability of the English available is going to be very poor. You're not going to be able to communicate very well with the staff, who, some of the staff, they'll probably have dealt with foreigners in the past, so they will have some English ability, but especially sorting through all of these options and pricing and just knowing how long it's going to take you to get things home, that can take a lot of time. If you're going to the post office on the weekend or during a busy time of the day, you're going to spend a lot of time waiting in line. So when you put all of these things together, when you think about actually packing the box, finding the materials for that box, both the box itself and the thing and the sort of the protective material you put inside, working through the administrative problems of actually getting these things set up, whether you have Kuroneko Yamato come and pick your box up for you, which can be very convenient, or you're going to the post office and you're waiting in line and you're trying to sort through all of the options that you have, you are going to spend an incredible amount of time shipping something home. And if you can regularly come to Japan, if you live here and it's not that big of a deal, then sure, ship these things home, save yourself some money instead of buying these things on eBay, just buy them yourself. But if you can't come to Japan that often, if it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, don't ship things home, actually spend your time and enjoy the country. That's my advice on shipping. That's all I have to say for right now. If you have any extra questions about shipping, just let me know, put something in the comments. I do try to at least read all the questions and I'll eventually get to it in a later Q&A. That's it. I've been your man in Japan, Jay Contra, saying thanks for watching, see you next time, and mahalo.